In today's video we continue our conversation about the curvature of the Earth, and even though in the previous part we couldn't find it, there's still a lot of areas that we didn't cover, like ships disappear over the curvature of the Earth, why is that and how is that, or long distance photography and videography, or long distance laser tests, whether they reach their target or not, and a lot of other things, so let's talk about it. If you have seen the previous part, you know that we tried a couple of things to see and detect and prove the curvature of the Earth. We went up really high and we couldn't find it, and we talked about wide-angle lens and a couple of other things, but we still didn't finish, and in this part we continue the journey and I still want to find the curve. So as I said, I have a lot of ideas and I don't want to make this intro too long, so let's just jump into it. And my aim in this video is to answer one simple question: where is the curve? That's all I want to know. Welcome to Mystery Teachings. My name is Gergo. If you are new to the channel, then welcome and namaste. Or if you are a returning beautiful soul, hey, thanks for coming back. I appreciate you. Okay, so let's continue exactly where we finished the previous part. So first one, this photo, and the globe site claims that this is the curvature and this is proof of the curvature. The flat side sometimes say that, oh look, also the Concorde is curved, but the Concorde looks like that, so you know that's not a good explanation. With this case I can do what I did previously and just complete the circle, and this is what you get. So this is the problem here. Or here is another example, and as you can see that Concorde would be way too big, so that's not curvature. Now when it comes to these photos, I mentioned this one in part 1 when I was talking about those Facebook debate groups, so if you haven't seen it, go and check it out. But I want to talk about this photo and this photo, because somebody said in the previous part that, oh, now I'm in trouble because I show you these and you can see the curvature, and I just want to remind you that I'm not here to prove or disprove flat Earth. I'm here to show you what I found, and I just tell you when I think it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. So I'm not afraid to talk about these photos. I do want to talk about them because it looks like you see curvature there, but in both cases the problem is the same, that you have a straight horizon line. So it is not possible that, you know, in one direction, in this direction, you have a curvature, but if you look at it horizontally, the horizon line looks completely level and straight. That would only be possible if the Earth was shaped like a paper towel roll, but we know that's not the case. So here is another example with this causeway, which is 23.8 miles long, and there is this photo saying that, oh, there's the curvature. Same thing, straight horizon line. And if we look at it from an aerial footage, you can see that there is no curvature there. So what's going on with these photos? And one logical explanation I found is, for example, this photo with these Legos on a table, they look the same. So I think this is only just some optical illusion, nothing else. Or here it is with these screws, you see the same thing. And here is a third example with these markers, and you see the same thing. That's not curvature. This is just how it looks like. So again, with these photos, it must be something else. And when I first looked at it, I'll be honest, I thought the same, that okay, that might be curvature, but knowing what I know now, let me show you my little conversation with artificial intelligence again. So I was asking how much water is in the air, especially above seas or oceans. Is it possible that the amount of water drops in the air can create a magnifying glass effect and how we see things in the background? And ChatGPT tells me this: the amount of water in the air varies depending on temperature, pressure and humidity. Over seas and oceans where evaporation is high, the air can hold significant moisture. The maximum amount of water vapor air can hold increases with temperature. For example, at 30 degrees Celsius, air can hold about 30 grams of water per cubic meter. At 10 degrees Celsius, it holds only about 9 grams per cubic meter. So this is already interesting. Can water droplets in the air act like a magnifying glass? Yes. Water droplets can bend and distort light, affecting how we see distant objects. This happens through refraction, scattering and diffraction. Some key optical effects include 1. Fata Morgana, or however you pronounce it, mirages at sea. Light bends due to temperature differences in the air, making distant objects appear stretched, distorted or even floating. For example, this photo. It looks like the boat is floating, but we know that's not possible. Number 2. Glory effect and fog bows. Tiny water droplets scatter and reflect light, creating bright rings or halos around objects. Okay. Number 3. Magnification. Large droplets like raindrops or dense mist can act like miniature lenses, briefly magnifying small parts of the background. However, this effect is usually weak and local rather than forming a large-scale magnifying glass. If you're thinking of something like a large-scale natural lens in humid air above the ocean, it's more likely that temperature layers bending light cause apparent size distortions rather than actual magnification from water droplets themselves. So it is possible, and there is a logical explanation to it. Now, to make sure that we all understand everything, I was also asking what's the difference between reflection and refraction. So they are both behaviors of light or other waves when they interact with different surfaces or media, but they are distinct phenomena. 1. Reflection occurs when a wave, such as light, bounces off a surface without changing its medium. The angle at which the wave hits the surface is equal to the angle at which it bounces off. Example, a mirror reflecting light. Okay, this is clear. Number 2. Refraction occurs when a wave passes from one medium to another, for example from air to water, changing its speed and direction. This bending effect is due to the change in the wave speed as it moves between media with different optical densities. Example, a straw appearing bent in a glass of water, or in this case, a pencil. It's the same thing, that's refraction. So in short, reflection is bouncing back while refraction is bending due to a change in medium. Okay, now that we understand this, here is this footage which is interesting because you see the same thing, but those buildings, just as I said in the previous part, they are not slanted, they are not twisted away from you as they should if there was curvature there. So there must be something else. And if you look at it how far they zoomed in to see these buildings, well, again, that doesn't look like curvature to me. So let me show you something from Rob Skiba, because he explains this phenomenon really well.
If the atmosphere, especially over water, is made up of zillions and zillions of tiny convex drops of water, then collectively, perhaps they all combine to make one big convex lens, in which case it would act like a magnifying glass. Using the sheet right here, set the city up, a little cutout of the city, and now I've got the big magnifying glass sheet. Bring the camera right up to the lens. See, that's the normal view of the city. Now let's back up again.
The science is the same of that of a lens. Here's a simple example.
So if you're looking at Chicago here,
The atmosphere really is acting like a lens.
yes,
Atmosphere really is acting like a lens, and this is how much of the city is missing due to the lensing effect, the magnification of the atmosphere. You're missing a good portion of the city just by pulling my iPhone back on a 3-foot long desk. That's how much I lost of the city.
Here are some more examples like this orange, and if we remove the magnifying sheet, you can see it's still there. The table is not curved, or you can see it with this ship that disappears, and actually it's pretty much the same how and why we see the sunset the way we see it. But we will talk about the sun and sunrise and sunset and all of that in a different episode, because there's much more to it and there's a lot more to understand with that one. But this is basically the same thing. Or as we can see it with this time lapse, you can see the horizon line rises and falls depending on the amount of water in the air. And you can see the whole city completely disappears. You can see the same thing with the background, with that mountain, that it's visible and then it's not visible. So this has nothing to do with curvature. This is due to this atmospheric effect. So back to these photos. Again, Probably it's the same thing. If you think it doesn't, then tell me what you think, leave a comment below, because that's a logical explanation for me, but I cannot say that this is curvature, again, for the same reason. It's not possible that we have curvature one way, but not the other way. So all I'm saying is that even if it looks like that you see curvature, it doesn't always mean that it's actually the curvature itself. That's all I'm saying. Now let's talk about this photo, because this was taken by a flat earther and they sent it to mainstream media, and here is what the local meteorologist guy said about this photo.
This photo from Grand Mere State Park, this is from Joshua Nowicki, and what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage.
The atmosphere is acting like a lens, which magnifies the city, brings it up a little closer, and as it does so, we start to lose a little bit of the bottom of the buildings, and perhaps due to the density in the atmosphere, there's additional refraction that takes place that makes it drop down even more. Is that what happened? Let's look at it from another angle here, from the side view. I'll bring our graphic back in of refraction. Let's go ahead and orient the graphic so it better represents what we're looking at here. I'll angle the light rays to show the density of the air here causing the refraction, and bring our lens in so we can magnify the city. It brings the city up, and as it does so, we start to lose a little bit of the bottom of the city, and perhaps either due to the magnification or due to additional refraction, maybe it is dropped down a little bit more, and this is what we end up with. Huh. Just like we saw. Now this is a still frame from the half-hour video that I did, and the numbers you see there are all based on the numbers that Tony was giving me based on his device. His device said it was 37 nautical miles, which is 42.6 statute miles, but when you plot the same exact location that we were at, the exact distance you get on Google Earth is 46 miles. So you basically add about 4 miles to all the numbers that you saw in the half-hour video.
Okay, so what is a mirage? It's an optical illusion caused by atmospheric conditions, especially the appearance of a sheet of water in a desert or on a hot road, caused by refraction of light from the sky by heated air. So this is a mirage, or as you can see it on this photo, the ship is the actual ship, but you can see we have a false horizon because there's a mirage there. How you can see that mirroring effect basically, or here is another example on the road. As the truck is getting closer, you can see that basically you see the same mirroring effect. So that's a mirage, but it gets closer and then it becomes more and more visible as it actually looks like. And now guess what happened? This guy I just showed you, this meteorologist, he said later in TV that he received a lot of email from people and they were really upset. Here is a short clip about that.
Chief Meteorologist Tom Coombs here, and I want to talk about mirage. I thought it wasn't that big of a deal when I shared this picture about a year ago from Joshua Nowicki. You could see the entire Chicago skyline all the way down to almost the shore of Chicago from the shores of Lake Michigan. Something I said was impossible, at least under normal conditions. This had to be a mirage or some sort of focusing by the atmosphere because there was a big inversion that night. Thought it was pretty straightforward. Did a quick 30-second explainer on air and moved on with my weathercast. Well, email after email later. This is just a few of those emails. Facebook posts, comments. I was shocked to find out that there are a number of people that believe the Earth is still flat, and that to them, this is actually proof that the Earth is flat.
Well, I'm not saying it proves or disproves anything, but that's definitely interesting that the city shouldn't be visible. But anyway, let's move on because we have still a lot of interesting things to do and talk about. First, let's talk about long-distance photographies. And first I was gonna give you multiple examples, but then I realized that if we don't have curvature at one location, it's probably missing everywhere else. So I will give you 3 examples of long-distance photos. photos. This is the first one, and feel free to pause it if you want, but basically we have two photos from 11 miles and 18 miles away. And also in the bottom it tells us that the arch bridge is 40 feet tall. Now when we do the calculation, even with the shorter 11 miles distance, we have 80 feet of curvature. That's twice as much as the height of the arch bridge itself. So even with the shorter distance, it shouldn't be visible. And from 18 miles, we have 216 feet of curvature. But here is the photo, and the arch is perfectly visible. Now that's weird, right? Okay, here is the next one, which is actually a Guinness World Record. And you can see it's a photo from 443 kilometers. You can see some details of the camera and some other stuff here. Again, pause it if you want. So the photo was taken on July 16, 2016, and here it is. So it's a world record photo from 443 kilometers, and they even show you the surrounding mountains as well. And here it is on the map. You can see a crazy long distance. And then also the article gives us some other photos, a picture with wide angle and a missing silhouette few minutes before sunrise and then after sunrise, and you can't see anything. So again, this really depends on atmospheric and weather conditions. Now the article also did the calculation for us with the altitude and the target distance in miles and feet, and you can see that there should be 16,500 feet of curvature. Here it is in the metric system. So with 443 kilometers, there's the altitude as well, and the target hidden height is 5,000 meters, which is 5 kilometers. And again, you can see all the mountains. So again, where is the curve? But this is my absolute favorite, and actually this should be the Guinness World Record. I'm not sure why it isn't. Maybe they just didn't bother to send it to Guinness World Records. But this is from Mount Snowdon. They captured Mont Blanc, which is 700 miles or 1,127 kilometers away. This photo was taken on July 25th, 2021. And here it is on the map. It's a really long distance. Now I don't know the altitude for this photo, so I've just done the calculation in the distance, so it's not 100% accurate, but still we should have 61.7 miles curvature, which is 99.4 kilometers. And here it is, the photo again. Here it is a little bit closer, and that's Mont Blanc in the background. So again, this is not possible. There should be a lot of curvature there, 60 miles or 99, nearly 100 kilometers. Now, here is an interesting article from a science website which says that the Earth's surface curves out of sight at a distance of 3.1 miles or 5 kilometers. Well, after these photos, I'm not sure about that anymore. And it also tells us that our visual acuity extends far beyond the horizon. If the Earth were flat, or if you were standing on the top of a mountain, surveying a larger than usual patch of the planet, you could perceive bright lights hundreds of miles distant. On a dark night, you could even see a candle flame flickering up to 30 miles or 48 kilometers away. Well, I don't think so. How could you see a candle flame from 30 miles away? You couldn't even see it from a mile away, because it's a small flame, and we know that the further something is, the less and less it's visible. So again, science. That's why we question science, right? Now let me show you a clip from a documentary called Flatlanders. It's a 4-part documentary. I'm not sure if you can find it on YouTube, but if you go on BitChute or Rumble or any other video platform and you just type in Flatlanders, all the 4 parts should come up. So here is a little clip about long distance photography again.
It's embedded everywhere, and basically science just says there's refraction. That's their only answer. Oh, there's refraction. That's why you're seeing it halfway around the world. Yeah. Exciting location, Malibu, California. And we're watching mountains in the distance in infrared. This is a converted infrared camera. I can see Mount Baldy about 70 80 miles away. And I can see the Arrowhead Mountain barely because it's got snow on top. That's at about 115 miles. But Mount San Jacinto, right now, I cannot tell if I'm picking it up or not. Later when I go home and I process the information in Photoshop, sometimes I just contrast any, I spot it, but we can at least see something in the distance. And usually the cloud cover, so there's a slight cloud cover that blocks the infrared light from the sun. So the mountain could be in an infrared shadow. But the other ones show up, so that's great. So lots of cool stuff. It's exciting to be able to see that far, right? 123 miles away, mountains that shouldn't be visible, Now that I've lived this reality for a while, it's not as exciting, but when you first hear about it, it's like shocking, So I went through my, paradigm shift about 5 years ago with everything. Kind of just boom, 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 like a domino effect. And I realized, oh my God, we're like under a dome.
All right, now let's talk about long distance videography. And the following footage I'm about to show you is also a Guinness World Record. And you will see it in a moment. The guy recorded himself from 12.4 miles or 20 kilometers away. Here is the calculation again. There should be 102 feet or 31.39 meters of curvature. Meaning the guy shouldn't be visible at all, but you will see that even his shoes are visible in the recording. Check this out.
The video and audio that you're watching right now is being filmed from 12.4 miles away, or about 20,000 meters, which makes this the longest, furthest recorded video ever. This is the 2-foot long lens, which is going to make this possible. It's one of the longest and most efficient lenses, which can allow you to shoot extremely long distances. I have no idea why anyone would actually want to have this in real life. It is a 452 times zoom, which is, well, stupid. We're going to be able to see from one end of this extremely long desert road, which stretches across this giant valley for about 12 miles. I'm going to be standing all the way on the other end of that, and then we're going to have this camera fastened safe and sound right here at this little clear out here, far away from the road, but still aimed at the exact other end of it. As you can see from the final result, this is how it looks like to be filmed from 12 miles away. So I'm petitioning Guinness World Records. I'm looking right at you, Guinness, wherever you are, to basically allow me to gain this world record. And I'm going to explain to you how exactly I did that. This thing right here is an apparatus which is going to prevent too much sunlight from reaching into the lens because, of course, when you have a 400 plus X zoom and you're filming something from nearly 13 miles away, it's going to be kind of catastrophic to the end result. If too much sunlight is entering in there, it's going to overexpose extremely high. This is the only valley in the entire country which just simply has the largest amount of open space that allows me to even attempt to do this. I really have no idea how it's going to turn out, so if you're seeing the video edited into this, that means it turned out actually good enough for me to make it into a YouTube video. I can only dearly hope that I'm actually standing in the right place to have myself filmed in, because from across this 12-mile wide valley where I have this whole camera set up, and where I'm standing at the highway at the edge of the valley, the margin of error that I have in order to stand in the right place is equivalent to about 0.001 arc seconds. To put it simply, it's very, very narrow. The chances of me standing in the exact correct spot for you to see me is about the same chance of you getting a hole-in-one in Wii Sports Golf. And the chances of me looking directly at you right now is about the same chance as you getting a hole-in-one in Wii Sports Golf about 10 times in a row.
And also, as a further note that I forgot to add into this while I was recording, this was actually a 10 times further of a zoom than what the lens can offer on its own by using an updated version of the normal Canon DSLR's camera software, which allowed me to zoom in up to 10 times the distance as well that was already there, which made it technically over a 4000x zoom.
Now, since we're here and I already traveled for about 45 minutes to get to the point away from where the camera is currently filming me, I guess I might as well put into perspective the amount of distance that there is between me and you right now. I am about 20,000 meters away, so as I said before, that's a very far distance, and it means even the speed of light is going to take 0.00001 seconds to reach your eyes through this camera. So technically I'm 0.0001 seconds delayed. So anyways, that's all I'm going to say for this video. If you found this to be educational, then, well, I could just say subscribe, I guess.
So guys, honestly, I have more and more doubts about the existence of the curvature, and this is the reason why I want to talk about water, because I never thought this actually this way, but we know that water always finds its level, and as you can see it in this article, it tells us the absurdity of the globe is believing that water's surface takes the shape of what is underneath. Even if oceans were forced to stick to the ball Earth because of gravity, the water would still remain level and not curved. So again, it's just some common sense, and I never thought about it this way, but how can tons and tons of water stick to the ball even upside down? It just doesn't make sense to me anymore, especially after what we've seen. Now let me show you two short clips with some more common sense about water.
It doesn't matter how you spin water, the centrifugal force will push it away. I mean, it's basic science. How do you think a washing machine removes the water from your clothes? You're supposed to be on a ball spinning 1,000 miles per hour, orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles per hour while shooting through the galaxy at 500,000 miles per hour. That's also moving at 1.2 million miles per hour. Yet none of those speeds match anything we experience in reality. In fact, it's completely insane to suggest such a notion. Bodies of water always find an equilibrium. When they're at rest, the surface is completely flat. It's time to realize the math ain't mathing and the science ain't sciencing. You can't even make it make sense. You're not a random mutated monkey man living on an accidental rocket ball, so follow and bind your mind to find out where you really live.
Take the water bordering our horizon, for instance. It is the natural physics of water to find and maintain a level, and it just so happens that that level is flat. If Earth was a spherical ball, water would not maintain such consistent flat levels. We are used to water doing this and this, but we have never in all our lives on Earth witnessed with our own eyes water do this. Water does not bend. It's not called sea level for nothing, you know. And if water did not always find a flat level, then why would we use tools such as this to achieve accuracy? Again, water does not bend. Rivers, for instance, always run down to sea level. If Earth was a rotating ball, then inevitably many rivers on Earth would, at some point in their journey, have to flow uphill. As Eric DeBay points out, the Mississippi is 3,000 miles long, which means it would need to run uphill for 11 miles on a globular Earth. He also points out that a portion of the Nile runs for 1,000 miles with a fall of only 1 foot. Again, if the Earth was a spherical ball, this would be impossible.
So after all this, how can we believe that this is what's happening on the bottom of the globe, let's say in Australia, for example? Okay, so now let's talk about those ships and why and how they disappear, whether it's curvature or not. And first, let me show you a short clip from a guy called Bill Nye. He's an American TV presenter, also known as the Science Guy. He's quite famous in America, and here is a short clip of how he explained this phenomena.
The Earth horizon model of science. Watch. As ships sail away, they don't disappear all at once. No, first, the bottom will disappear. See, the bottom of the ship is gone. Now we can see midway up, and then the whole thing disappears. Now, ships came back. They didn't fall off a table. So people realized that the world is curved. I mean, it's a big curve, but it's curved.
Okay, so it makes sense, right? This is what we all learned quite early in school. I personally saw it when I was on the beach, and I saw that after a while I couldn't see the ships. And this is exactly what Neil deGrasse Tyson said, and I showed you that in part 1. Here's a short reminder.
Here's the thing. We thought Earth was flat before we had sea-going vessels that went beyond the horizon, recognizing that there has to be a curve there, because the ship doesn't always stay in view. So Columbus, when he set sail, the ship eventually disappeared. And you can chase after him and you can keep disappearing. You can keep doing this. This would count as evidence that Earth's surface was curved.
So basically he says the same thing, but in my opinion it's a little bit controversial, because in the previous part when we were talking about the space jump of Felix Baumgartner, he said that from that height you cannot see the curvature. Here is a short reminder.
You don't see the curvature of the Earth if you are 2 millimeters above this beach ball. You just don't. That stuff is flat.
So again, how is it possible that from such a distance, if you go up so high, you cannot see the curvature, but just by standing at the beach, you can see how the ships disappear due to the curvature? That's a bit controversial for me, so let's go into the details and see why is it possible, or what's the solution, or what's the answer. First of all, I was asking Google AI how far we can see at sea level, and it tells me that you can see about 2.9 miles or 4.5 kilometers due to the curvature of the Earth. This is the distance to the horizon. Okay, now what's the definition of the horizon? It means the line at which the Earth's surface and the sky appear to meet. So it looks like the sky meets the ocean, but we know that it doesn't happen. Okay, here is another definition which is also important, the vanishing point. 1. The point at which receding parallel lines viewed in perspective appear to converge. 2. The point at which something that has been growing smaller or increasingly faint disappears altogether. Now please remember all these definitions, and here is a couple of footages where you stand at the beach and people with a high zoom camera or telescope, they zoom in, and guess what happens? You can bring back the ship into view. It doesn't disappear due to curvature. It disappears due to perspective. Here is another example when they zoom in like crazy, and there you go. There's the ship again. So let me show you a couple of more examples with high zoom cameras, and again you can decide for yourself, but it looks like this is just perspective. Things disappear beyond the vanishing point, and this is how our eyes can see. So here is a couple of more examples, and we continue with more details in a moment. So again, this is how our eyes work. We can only see a certain distance before we see the horizon line, which means that the sky meets the ocean, but we know that's not the case. So things disappear beyond the vanishing point. Here is this example with the city in the distance. You can perfectly see the city and the straight horizon line, and if we zoom out, you can see that it's not because of curvature, it's because of our limited eye vision. Or here is one last example, and it's the same thing. So this is how perspective works. That's all I'm saying. So it's quite interesting. And again, what did both science guys say, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye? They say, oh, we can see how it disappears due to curvature, and that's evidence that Earth's surface is curved. Well, after all these footages, I'm really not sure anymore. So after what you just seen, well, we can say that this is not due to curvature. This is because of the vanishing point and perspective, and that also answers the question what Globers ask all the time from the flat side, that if the Earth is flat, then why can I not see Asia from America? Well, this is the exact same reason. And let me show you one more clip from the channel called Flat Out Truth. I follow that channel, it's really awesome, go and check it out. He explains this one more time.
Boats vanish beyond the horizon due to perspective and not the curvature of a round Earth, as demonstrated here with the white cap being the boat and the countertop being the flat Earth. And the camera will be at ground level, as you can see, the white cap in the bottom right corner. Now watch as we move it away. It disappears slowly, then it's totally gone out of your view. Doesn't mean it went over a round counter, does it? Just means it went out of your line of sight due to perspective. But as you can see here, if you zoom in with the camera, you're gonna find that it pops right back into view, proving that it did not disappear due to curvature, but due to perspective.
And then we can see the same thing on this footage. This was recorded in a football field, and as the guy walks away, just like the ships, the bottom disappears first. Like you can see his legs are not visible anymore, even his trouser, nearly half of his t-shirt. And as he's coming back, everything comes back into view again. So just for one last time, this is due to perspective and nothing else. I hope it makes sense now. Okay, and if this is still not enough, I still have more for you. And what I'm about to show you is something I wanted to give you as a bonus today, but I have a different bonus, so I just put it into this part. So basically, I was asking ChatGPT if the Earth is flat, just to play a game. So I said to the AI that, you know, don't take this seriously, let's just be a bit playful. And if the Earth is flat, then is it possible that the bottom of the ships disappear first? And if so, what's the reason for that? Here is what it said. I understand that you are trying to understand the phenomena of sight and the disappearance of distant objects through a theoretical exercise. Assuming the Earth is flat and level, here is what could cause the disappearance of ships and optical illusions. 1. Visual limitations and optical effects. The human eye's actual range of vision is limited. Even in clear conditions, the human eye can detect objects only up to 5-10 kilometers away. This is due partly to atmospheric disturbances like scattering or reflection of light, as well as the natural limits of the field of view. Optical illusions. On a flat Earth, optical illusions and atmospheric effects could still affect the perceived image. For example, due to light refraction, distant objects might appear distorted, making them seem as if they are disappearing. Atmospheric refraction, which is changes in light wavelength and speed through different layers of the atmosphere, can cause optical illusions. If the Earth were flat, atmospheric refraction could partially or completely obscure distant ships, though other factors might also distort the view. Bottom of the ship disappearing first. Light reflection. If the Earth were flat, look at this. the bottom of the ship would still disappear first due to the effects of vision and light reflection. The light reaching the distant horizon runs lower than the upper parts of the ship. Due to atmospheric effects and angular differences, lower parts might blend into or become invisible due to the limits of sight, while higher parts remain visible longer. Summary: in theory, if the Earth were flat, the disappearance of ships would mainly be caused by optical illusions and atmospheric conditions. The bottom of the ship disappears first because lower parts reach the visual limit or become distorted by atmospheric conditions before the higher parts do. High zoom cameras can detail the viewed image, but they cannot completely alter the fundamental optical and atmospheric limits of object disappearance. There you go, that's your answer. If the Earth is flat, this is still possible. So if someone asks you next time why is the bottom of the ship disappear first, show them this video. Now back to this article again. It tells us that the Earth's surface curves out of sight at a distance of 3.1 miles or 5 kilometers. If the Earth's surface really curves out at this distance, which we already shown it's not possible, then the other problem is that lighthouses would be completely useless. The whole point of lighthouses is that they are visible from a much longer distance, and I was asking the AI about this, what are the longest or how far people could see lighthouses, and this is what it said. Anecdotal reports of lighthouses being visible from extreme distances can vary greatly and may not always be scientifically verified. However, there have been accounts of lighthouses being visible from distances exceeding 30 or even 40 nautical miles. Now, 1 nautical mile is 1.15 normal miles, which is 55 to 74 kilometers. Under exceptional conditions such as extremely clear weather, favorable atmospheric conditions and high elevations for the observer. These instances are rare and not representative of typical visibility ranges. But the point is that it did happen before, that they were visible from such a distance. So again, this article is not very scientific in my humble opinion. Now, another thing before we continue, which we said that we see a certain distance and we see the same distance in all directions due to perspective. So even if you're in the middle of ocean and it looks like you see some kind of curvature, that's perspective and not curvature, just to make sure we're all on the same page. And finally, if this was curvature, then this is actually makes a lot of sense to me. Why don't we see pictures of airplanes like this one with a high zoom camera? We never see such photos, so that's not curvature again. So here is my summary of this whole part, and then we continue with something else. Alright, now after all this, I want to talk about engineers and engineering in general, because we do have extremely long bridges in the world, and after what we have just seen so far, I'm really not sure anymore if engineers need to account for and calculate for any curvature. Of course, there are examples like this photo when you see some curve, but that's the construction of the bridge itself and not the water surface or the Earth's surface. Here is another one with a really long bridge. So again, my question is the same. Do they account for curvature or not? Here is this causeway again, which is 23.8 miles long, and there's apparently 380 feet of missing curvature. And we can go on and on and on, and basically we can see the same thing. So again, when engineers do their planning and their calculations, I don't think they account for any curvature. Or let's talk about railroads, and the same thing. There are thousands and thousands of miles of railroads without curvature. And by the way, this is another good example for the vanishing point. Or let's not forget about canals, because they are also extremely long. And do they curve? Well, I don't think so. The Suez Canal, for example, a really good example, which is connecting the Mediterranean with the Red Sea, and it's 102 miles long without any locks, making the water an uninterrupted continuation of the two seas. When constructed, the Earth's supposed curvature was not taken into account. It was dug along a horizontal datum line 20 feet below sea level, passing through several lakes from one sea to the other, with the datum line around the water's surface running perfectly parallel over the 102 miles. If the Earth were a globe with a circumference of 24,901 miles, there would be 6,936 feet or 1.31 miles of curvature, but it is completely level with no locks needed. Now let me show you what the engineer called W. Winkler published in the Earth Review magazine, and he said the following: as an engineer of many years standing, I saw that this absurd allowance is only permitted in school books. No engineer would dream of allowing anything of the kind. I have projected many miles of railways and many more of canals, and the allowance has not even been thought of, much less allowed for. This allowance for curvature means this, that it is 8 inches for the first mile of a canal and increasing at the ratio by the square of the distance in miles. Thus, a small navigable canal for boats, say 30 miles long, will have by the above rule an allowance for curvature of 600 feet. Think of that and then please credit engineers as not being quite such fools. Nothing of the sort is allowed. We no more think of allowing 600 feet for a line of 30 miles of railway or canal than of wasting our time trying to square the circle. Well, it tells a lot in my opinion. So again, people say that flat Earth is so stupid, and at this point I'm wondering that we think this is normal and this is some really crazy stupid conspiracy theory. But if we have no observable curvature, that means the Earth is not a globe. And I know this is not the scale, but I'm really wondering if we actually live on something like this. And I want to show you a quote again because it really matches everything we talked about. The truth is the truth even if no one believes it, and the lie is a lie even if everyone believes it. Alright, so we still didn't finish. I still have more for you, but at this point I'd like to say something. So when I was at this point in my entire research and investigation journey, I thought that what I found so far is really strange, and what I can tell from the previous experience, from the first 6 parts of this series, that so far flat Earth is not that stupid as they say it is. If you think back, in part 1 we already saw that the number of people believing flat Earth is growing like crazy, and also it is heavily censored on multiple media platforms including YouTube and Google and many others. And then in part 2 we question science, and as I said, you decide for yourself, but all those spinning kind of crazy movements, that doesn't make sense to me. And then we find that we don't find any real photos of the Earth, and then we saw that Google Earth proves nothing, and in the previous and this part we tried to find the curvature and I couldn't. Maybe I missed something, maybe I'm wrong somewhere, I'm not sure, but at this point I decided that I want to continue. And I can tell you something, there are still so many areas to talk about when it comes to flat Earth that we are really just getting started with this series. So we're gonna continue this investigation, and whether I'm right or wrong, that doesn't matter at this point. I just want to continue. I'm curious if it makes more sense or not. And obviously I have a lot of questions still about a lot of things, so we will continue, and I will just keep my open mind and be open-minded to the idea that what if the Earth is not a globe. So this is how the series will continue, but first we have one more thing to do. So this is your bonus time, and today I have a really special one for you because it's about my beautiful country, Hungary. And in Hungary we have a lake called the Lake Balaton, and these are my photos. I've taken these last summer in 2024. We've been there, and I'm gonna go there this year as well. I've been there a million times. It's an amazing place, but the reason why it's important, because Lake Balaton is the biggest lake in Central Europe. It's 48 miles long, which is 77 kilometers, and the curvature of the Earth between the two ends of Lake Balaton results in a height difference of approximately 465.3 meters. This means that if you stand at one end of the lake, the other end is about this much lower due to the Earth's curvature. Now the problem is that if you look at some aerial footages, and here are a couple of examples, again you cannot see that so-called curvature. And we talk about a massive long lake, 48 miles and 77 kilometers. So why is this important? Well, you will see that in a moment, but basically today's bonus is slightly different than the previous ones, because today I want to give you a video recommendation and a 1-hour documentary that I find super interesting, and I think you should definitely watch it and obviously decide for yourself. So it's about the greatest laser experiment in history, and guess what? It happened in Hungary as well as in the Netherlands, but mainly in Hungary, and there was a Hungarian guy involved in the story as well. So today in this bonus I really just want to give you a short trailer of this video, and I will put the link to the full documentary to the description below. Here is the trailer.
The curvature. Earth is said to be a sphere with a circumference of 25,000 miles or 40,000 kilometers. Therefore, it has to have a curvature of about 8 inches per mile squared. Can we observe or verify this? We are taught about the ancient observations like a sailing boat going over the horizon and the measurements of Eratosthenes. They are all falsified by our current observations and better understanding of the optical effects of the atmosphere. But how can we really measure the curvature of the Earth in the 21st century? FE Core has established the Terrestrial Laser Targeting Method, or TLT method for short, to measure the geopotential surface of the Earth. Geopotential means the shape that the ocean surface takes under the influence of gravity. With the TLT method, you can accurately verify or falsify the curved surface defined by the WGS-84 geoid model on large bodies of water. Sandor is an inventor from Hungary who joined FE Core from the beginning. Sandor had also been considering how to verify that bodies of water conform with the WGS-84 geoid model. In 2016, he decided to test this by using a laser beam over the surface of water.
Zach and I decided to recreate an experiment similar to Stephen Hawking's experiment to prove that the surface of the water actually curves according to the curvature of the Earth. Hawking's target was 3 miles away, and it seemed to match the curvature of the WGS-84 geoid model. But his results looked strange to me because I could see the shore on the other side of Lake Balaton, which is a lot further away than his distance of 3 miles. So we decided to do a laser experiment with a few other friends. We chose to perform the first test over Lake Balaton, Hungary, about an hour drive southwest of Budapest. It's approximately 48 miles or 77 kilometers long, by an average of 4 to 6 miles or 7 to 10 kilometers wide. So it provides a long distance for a line-of-sight laser observation. Balaton also has many locations to carry out such an experiment.
Okay, check this out, brothers and sisters. 28 kilometers in your face.
Wow. Wow. Awesome. That is awesome.
My camera is 85 centimeters above sea level.
Look at that. That's amazing. You can see it reflecting off the lake water.
Yeah.
That's astounding.
That's the nail in the coffin.
Yes, it is.
Oh, this is so great, boss. It's really awesome.
FE Core performed 7 documented TLT measurements in 2018. 2 were at Lake Balaton in Hungary, and 5 were performed at Lake IJssel in the Netherlands. Based on the collected data, FE Core now has evidence that falsifies the WGS-84 mathematical construct. This has huge implications to our current understanding of Earth's geometric shape.
So as I said, spoiler alert, there were 7 different measurements and there was no curvature. But as I said, go and check it out for yourself. The link is in the description. And now we need to continue. And my next question is that if there is no curvature, then what does the Earth look like from space? I think that's an obvious next step in this whole investigation journey. Now, the flat side pointed out, and this is where they pretty much agree, that space as we know it is not real. They say it's fake. And this is the first part or first point in my whole journey when I thought that, okay, this is a little bit beyond my limits. I mean, we know we are in space, so how can you claim that it's fake? So this is really interesting, but as I also said, I will be open-minded, I will listen, and I will decide for myself. So what we need to do next is to investigate not only NASA, but other space agencies as well in general. So we're gonna go and look for space, and we will need to find out whether or not NASA and all the others are real space agencies or not. So follow me to part 7 and let's find it out together. Stay blessed.